The vulnerability of our energy systems has been really brought to bear with the recent attacks on Iran. While I never knew there were so many experts on the Strait of Hormuz, what I really want to talk about and what I do know about is the impact on energy prices, specifically power prices in Ireland. While things like petrol, diesel, home heating have risen instantaneously, what we're going to see in the power sector is a more gradual increase in prices. What I want to talk about is the impact on the generation mix in Ireland in March, the power prices in Ireland, and what the impact of that is going to be for customers.
So what I really wanted to talk about was the impact on power prices that we've seen in early March so far. So people who subscribe to the newsletter will get this information about the power prices. What we have in the navy line is the monthly power price, and in the gold line we have the 12-month rolling average. So you can see that while power prices have increased to about 130 euros per megawatt hour for March, it's still not up to the levels that we would have seen in, say, the Ukraine crisis back in 2022. So we're seeing that's the real high point, and we're definitely seeing an uptick in prices, but not up to the levels that we've seen previously. The other thing to know, just looking at a kind of a daily basis on the different prices. So again, the gold bars here are the average day prices for each day during the month. So you can see at the start of March, the crisis hadn't hit, and then it suddenly hit, and the power prices started rising up to 180 euros per megawatt hour. The other thing to note on this graph is the percentage of renewables that entered the mix. So on those days where we have, say, high penetration of renewables in Ireland, we see a significant fall off in the prices as well there. So this day we have about 70% renewables in the system, and the prices are around 65 euros per megawatt hour on the wholesale market. When we look at the energy mix for each of those days, you can see high volumes of wind coming through there. So on the 11th, we have about 65% of our energy mix is of wind. We also have 2 or 3% of solar starting to come into the mix. Obviously, hydro's there at 3%. The other interesting thing to note about this in terms of our energy mix is the imports. So the IC here is the interconnectors. So earlier on in the month, we had significant volumes of imports coming in, and some of those later days we've had much smaller amounts. Also great to see storage coming in, and we'll have a look at those energy mixes in a bit more detail. So we wanted to just highlight a high renewable day, which was the 11th of March. You can see here that the average price is around 68 euros per megawatt hour. Renewables met around 70% of our demand, and you can see here this gold section here with large volumes of wind, consistent shape throughout the day, really helping suppress prices. The other interesting thing to note here is this is the SNSP limit, this navy line. So it's how much non-synchronous generation we have on the system. The higher that is, the higher reflection of the renewables that are on the system. And you can see here we've got a good mix of renewables on throughout that day. But the energy mix isn't totally made up of renewables. Some days they're not there. So if we looked at, say, the 6th of March, you can see the navy section here, which is a multi-fuel gas generation. It's quite significant. You can still see the blue section here, a significant portion of solar on the system, but the volume of wind is much lower. On this day, our average power price was 185 euros per megawatt hour. Renewables made up 50% of demand. This pink section here reflects pump storage, so reflects the requirement for flexibility, and just shows you the vulnerability of our system and how we do need this backup generation to meet demand. But when that generation comes, it comes at a cost. I think the main thing to take from this is that the more indigenous generation we have within Ireland, the better. And if we're having to depend on external sources, we're going to have to be able to pay for that and plan our systems accordingly.